Hi. Hi, hello everyone. So
Yeah.
wonderful to see you coming on. I apologize. It was a little bit of a debacle. I have a feeling that you could probably hear the debacle happening. Was like, I have to let all of these people into this room. It was a lot happening. So I'm excited. We're here. Thank you, Yaz. I appreciate that. It's wonderful to have you here. Screen.
And
Hi, April. Thank you. Um, Slide on.
I
Good
have
morning,
that one.
Caitlin. Thank you. Hi, Timo. I love it. Please, everybody, plug in who you are and where you're coming from. I love to see this. Timo, welcome. You're in South Africa. I'm in Mozambique. Beldine in Kyrgyzstan. April coming from Switzerland. Hello, Shahreen from Sri Lanka. Hey, Elizabeth.
You.
I'm not for sure. It's now.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, please keep them coming. I think that's my friend Michelle coming from Taiwan. We have people from Cuba, Vietnam, Georgia. I love it. Welcome, everyone. Well, it's now 3:01. And I think Nicole is going to share our Canvas slide because we had a little malfunction with the sharing capability with Riverside. So we getting that sorted out. Thank you, Nicole. Fun times. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
I'm not sharing yet because I'm still waiting for your Canva invite to go through.
Oh, check. It may have went to your spam. Check your spam because I sent it from my Curating Edu.
Okay.
And so while Nicole is getting that pulled up, just some friendly reminders. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dropping your name and where you're coming from into our chat. This is Riverside. So we are not able to do breakout rooms, but we are able to get a high quality recording and to be able to use that chat to really hold conversation. And please always feel free to plug in. I will do my very best to keep checking it and seeing your questions, your comments, and such. Also, we're all coming from different times with different luggage. So please make sure that you use this time how you feel is best, move as you need to, choose your engagement, and really just kind of take care of you today. And before we really get into our discussion today, I want us to give a quick shout out to Equip My School. They are our core sponsors for this neuro-inclusive teaching toolkit. This series is led by Lauren Jones. She cannot be with us today as she is traveling to Western Africa to do some inclusion work with some schools. So she sends her hellos and positive vibes from her. And Quit My School, they have sponsored us and given us this opportunity to provide high quality webinars that take inclusion and really give us the tools to to dive in to be more successful. And you may walk away today with some reminders, which is always great, but I hope that you walk away with some actual tools that you can add to your arsenal to become more inclusive. All right. So without further ado, let's get into this. We are on slide 3, which is about the webinar. And today we are diving into tier 1 and recognizing that it doesn't have to be scary, that we can use collaborative tools to problem solve. And my name is Amber. I am the primary student support services coordinator, as well as a learning support teacher at the American International School of Mozambique. I'm also the founder of Curating Edu, which is dedicated to making international schools more inclusive. And I'm really excited to be here today and to give you this opportunity to take a tool, design it for your context, and unleash the potential of thought partnering and collaborative process. So a little bit about me. Hello. I've been teaching for about 20 years across a variety of contexts, and it has been a passion of mine that we are more inclusive, not just for students, but for teachers and staff. And everybody has the right to be happy and successful. My beautiful guest today is Nicole. She and I work together at Bishop Mackenzie International School in Malawi. We worked together the past 2 years. Nicole comes with expertise not only in classroom, but also as a learning support teacher. She is passionate about MTSS, the combination of moving the science of reading and SEL and ensuring that all students are successful, especially within the PYP framework. So goals. So by the end of this workshop, the WIGS is number 1, I want you to be able to explain the role and the importance of tier 1 intervention. You are going to observe a collaborative thought partnering and an application of that tier 1 intervention tool. And through that observation, you're going to be able to reflect on how the tool is used, how it's delivered, and how you can make it customizable to your context in your school. On her screen, and this is the actual protocol with the tool, but I have all the tabs that have lots of important information. So let's talk about our learning agenda. As Nicole gets that pulled up, I like to always, with my kids, through that UDL lens, make our learning very visible. So what are we going to dive into today? We're going to start with tier 1. Then we're going to talk about the tool. We're going to go through the protocol. And then we are going to role play using this tool. Ooh, I heard a ding. Is that good news, Nicole?
Yes, I'm updating my settings so that I can share.
Slides tab. Tier 1 is what we're really going to start with today. So we can just do a quick little refresher because I want us to spend a lot of time looking over the tool, the protocol, and then at the top is our opportunity to role play and do that observation and reflection. All right. So this is our waterfall activity. Everybody go ahead and identify what your role is. And if I don't have it listed, please type in what your role is. So you might be a teacher, a learning support, an admin, counselor, a consultant. I just want to see the learner variability. Who is in the room today? All right. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and drop it in there. Whoa, learning support. We got a director, learning support, coordinator here. Teacher in charge of a hospital school. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, now I want you guys to imagine a room. You have one side that is year 1. You have the other side of the room that is year 25, 30, whatever it is. What is your year's experience in this capacity? Or if you want to go in the realm of education, especially if you've kind of gone through a number of different roles, go ahead in 3, 2, 1, go. 25, 27, 14, 6, 2, 18, 30, 35 years. Wow, we have a lot of experience in the room. Nicole, I'm really excited to see all of these different voices coming together. Okay, the next one is tier one confidence. Again, think of your spectrum 1 to 10. 1 is I am not confident at all in tier one. And 10 is, girl, I can do this like the back of my hand. I got this. Everybody go ahead and determine what is your confidence level in 3, 2, 1. Very nice. Okay, we got some people coming in with a lot of great experience, others who are just starting. This is awesome. I'm excited about this. Now, your last one, your comfort using AI. So we're going to talk about human intelligence and we're going to talk about AI. So go ahead and think about, where do you put yourself on using AI to develop interventions, goals, lesson plans, whatever it is that you use for your realm of work. Go ahead and put in your comfort level again, 1 to 10. Excellent. All right. It looks like we have a lot of people who are really excited about AI, others who are more also kind of beginning that journey. This is great. This just shows our learner variability, just like our classrooms. Okay, our next step here is, again, let's do a waterfall. So Nicole, you want to go to the next slide?
Yes.
And this waterfall is, I want you to use one word to describe tier one. If you are asked one word, what would you use to describe tier one? I'm very excited to see how people view this. All right, 3,
Okay.
2, 1. Essential,
Equity.
equity, universal. I love it. Everyone, all, yes, yes, solid,
Mm-hmm.
foundation.
Foundation.
Timo, that's a great word. I like that. Any others? I like the equity, time. That's the
Start.
start. Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. So, Nicole, when we come to tier one, let's give ourselves just a couple of minutes, you and I, to kind of have this conversation about tier one. What are you seeing in your context about how it's being used and how you've seen any growth?
Think there's like a spectrum where schools are at. Where I'm at currently, in Malawi at Bishop Mackenzie, we didn't have a tool for tier one. And I think that led to some referrals that didn't have a ton of data or didn't have a structured intervention that took place
Mhm.
before the referral to tier two. And then once this tool was being used, it really created a structure and like a pathway to make our tier one, like to enhance it to support
Yeah.
students. And then it also cleared up that process of um, the referral process.
Right. And I'm curious about our people, our participants, is like, what are some things that you're showing up in your context? In ours, I'm new to my school, but it's definitely, different classrooms, different beliefs, different ideas of what tier one is. But one thing that I have seen is that it's universally known is that everybody is involved in this, and that we've really kind of moved the needle in terms of shifting this perspective of, my students versus your students, but kind of like, as Barbara was saying, everyone in all settings, or that foundational, that everyone is included. I see that a lot of our participants today are really kind of focusing on like Katie Novak says, you cannot intervention your way out of poor tier one. instruction. And I think that that is why we kind of started moving the needle on tier one intervention and developing a stronger support system for our teachers, because we saw something that needed to be corrected, and we needed to use our expertise to kind of guide them and help them find something that works better. Yes, I will reshare that doc. Um, with that, let's go to the next slide in our presentation, because I don't know, people and our participants, are you familiar with the dynamic model? I came across this in DC over the summer attending the Office of Overseas Schools collaboration with CINEA to get a better understanding of how we can all be on the same page in terms of specialized services and inclusive schools. And this, I found it really enlightening because it shows that MTSS, number one, we know it's not just about academics, and we know it's not just about behavior, but we can also integrate our English language learners, but also those self-management learners, which I personally always kind of look at with executive functioning skills, and understanding that in that tier one, we're looking at just the basics of the management, the strategies that are used, the problem solving, the professional development that's going into ensuring that we do have a strong tier one, and that we're including everybody in that, and not just the top performing students, but that everybody is considered learners in that structure. And this is where we're going to look at this conceptual shift. And I think this has been really important on our inclusive journey, is replacing those old ideas, those antiquated ideas, with more of a reframed belief that it's not just some kids need to pull out, but that every child deserves tier one, that it's not learning support's job to always do the fixing, that it requires a collaboration of everybody, and that tier one is the first response, and kind of shifting that idea of that only the 20% is who MTSS is for, when now we know, especially looking back at that inverted model, that we're looking across extending students as well as supporting students. So I think Ange makes a great point. She says, I think initially as a teacher, you think it makes your job much harder to navigate. With more experience with tier one, I find you start learning how easy it is to support kids at their own level, managing expectations to include growth. Awesome. Thank you. And that's the thing, is like, that's also like with UDL. We think that it's like this extra thing we have to do. But once we start practicing and using the tools, then we can really start recognizing that these tools don't just benefit these two learning support kids, they benefit all of the school. Yeah, reframing from more to foundational. And that kind of goes back to, I forget who it was who said that. What came to mind, Timo, was foundation. So awesome. Thank you, you guys. I love your ideas and your thoughts. So, Nicole, go ahead and hit that next slide. I think we need just 1 minute to just do a quick little check-in. It's a lot that's kind of been spewed out here. And the second half of this webinar, I really want it to be more of our participants gaining a lot of watching what's going on, and then being able to have that conversation back and forth. So at this time, I want you guys to kind of choose one of these options to process for 1 minute. And you can just take a deep breath. You can set a goal for yourself. You can text that to somebody, or you can even put it in the chat here, or you can just reflect on how you're doing. And I'm going to set that 1 minute for us to just have that processing time. So, Nicole, the next slide is kind of how we got here. So, Nicole was commenting that she using this tool made it a lot easier to navigate tier 1 and that pre-referral process. I just wanted to kind of give like a little insight to how this tool appeared. And it started because we that we had not done our part. And the thing is that we had a classroom teacher who had been working really closely with a learning support teacher to support a girl who was struggling with writing. And she had been collecting some data and doing some strategies and things. And then the teacher came to our educational support meeting. That was part of our procedures, that if you wanted to refer a child, that you needed to come and like have a conversation, because we need to find out like what all's been going on and to get an idea of what's happening in your classroom, to give you that opportunity to share. So it's not just a form that you complete and send off with no context. It gives us more of an opportunity to kind of have like a conversation. So this teacher came prepared, y'all. She had put together a PowerPoint presentation, and she was asking us to consider a referral. As she was walking through the presentation, we were asking some guiding questions like, what have you tried so far? What interventions have worked? And from her answers, we realized something important, that she had tried some strategies that we had provided her with, but we had never really given her a true intervention, like a true, like, this is how you do this, and this is strategic, and it's specific, and it's measurable. And that's when it became clear we hadn't done our part. So therefore, we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. And out of that process, we created or began creating this tier 1 intervention tool. And this little girl, she ended up becoming our first student to have an intervention formally using this tool. And after just a few weeks of structured support and data collection between the classroom teacher and the learning support teacher, the results were clear. She didn't need learning support. She just needed tier 1 interventions carried out with fidelity. And that really stopped us in our tracks. And it made us ask ourselves even a bigger question of how many kids do we have being referred for learning support who aren't really true learning support cases? And that's why we really started putting together this tier 1 intervention and making it an even stronger tool. So, Nicole, hit the next slide. So the tier 1 intervention tool, the purpose is for us to slow down, to refocus, and to determine exactly what it is that these students need. All right, and the next slide talks about what the intervention tool is and what it is not. And so we have to make it very clear that this is a collaborative problem solving. It's not the referral for learning support. And, depending on your context, you may have to be very intentional about making those distinctions. This is something that happens in the classroom with the classroom teacher. You are empowering them. You're giving them the tools, these interventions, possibly the data collection methods, and they are the ones that are implementing it. Therefore, like Ange was saying, becoming better teachers and recognizing that, oh, actually, this isn't so difficult, and actually it works for a lot of kids. Also, this isn't about fixing the kid. It's fixing our systems, what we have in place already. So it's being very cognizant of what do students need and what do we need to do to provide those. I also really love the fact that with this tool, it gives the teachers language that they need to involve families in the process as well. So then it becomes really a homeschool connection tool around what these goals are based on what the student needs. Our next slide, Nicole, is thinking about this. So we realized that when a learning support teacher was meeting with the classroom teacher, in our context, it may have looked a little like power dynamics. And so we wanted to shift that because to make it more inclusive, I feel like it's really important for us to be very specific about the language that we're using and how we're coming into a conversation. So with this tool, the protocol is very intentional about making it less about a coaching and more about a thought partnering. And this thought partnering ensures that there's more listening. It's the person, the learning support teacher, or whoever it is that's doing the intake is really being quiet and holding your questions and not jumping in with an answer right away. It's giving the teacher the opportunity to just put everything out there so then we can really start kind of combing through the data to determine what it is that we want to do. Yes. We're now going to go to the actual protocol. In the document that I shared with you all, it should be the first tab. So if you guys are familiar with the tabs over on the left-hand side, that tab for the protocols is where I wanted us to kind of start walking through. So Nicole, let's go ahead and scroll down. And we're going to bypass this first page and we're going to go to step 1, which is really kind of setting the stage. And you guys, this is where the thought partner, we're here to get curious about problem solving, thought partnering, going through this tool. And so this kind of sets the stage for that to show that this isn't us finding the answers, but we're at least going to get curious around it and see if we can work together and problem solve what's going on. I also wanted to show step 2 and 3. These are important because this is where you're actually going through the tool, and Nicole and I are obviously going to role play this, so you're going to be able to really see it. Also, in the second to the bottom tab, you see it says modeling video and tool. I have included in there an example and a video for you to watch, and the tool that's completed based on that video. So that is yours to be able to go back to your context and be able to watch it again in live in a recorded fashion. So your step 2 is, oftentimes teachers, they want to dive right in and tell you everything wrong that's going on. I personally like to come from more of a strengths-based perspective and better understand how the child shows up in the world, who they are, because that gives me a lot more understanding of what type of learner they are and what they're passionate about, what excites them, and gives us more of a positive lens instead of jumping right in. They don't know how to spell their words, so it kind of builds up, and then we can then look at any barriers or challenges and always kind of asking, what have you tried? What works for you? And I included on here your thought partner notes. I want you guys to really think about these as you're going through this with your teacher, because we want to give them an opportunity to really just kind of spew everything, and then we can start kind of plugging through any additional. Step 3 is also a big part, and Nicole and I will show you this and really determining what the skills are we want the child to be able to do. And I find that by using this protocol, the teacher is the one that ends up coming up with the answers. And Ange and we used this a couple of times, and I think she could probably speak to it, that she found that oftentimes she was the one who determined what the skills were that she wanted to focus on. And that was something that just came out of the conversation. Teachers you all always know what it is that you want to do. It's just kind of like diving down and finding that foundational component. Step 4, I put here. You may skip this step to come back to. I'm going to talk about this, but I like to skip this step and come back to it after I use AI. And then step 5 is our reflect and schedule for a follow-up after I have put in all of my interventions and the strategies and the parent ideas. Then I come back to the classroom teacher. It takes very little time. to go through what it is, what the plan is, and what the interventions are. And so that is in that step 5. And then step 6 is after the intervention. So that's after the 5 to 6 weeks, whatever it is that you have decided. Again, I'll talk about this towards the end of the webinar today. So I'm going to give you guys about 3 minutes to look through all of those different tabs. Actually, sorry, y'all. Nicole, go to Form A because this is the tool. I have to show you guys the tool. This is the tool. Simple, right? You wouldn't think that it would be so easy. It's always like right there. But this is the tool. This is what I personally use to plug in information for the students. I have given you guys 3 different forms. It's essentially the same tool, but maybe shown a different way. Form A, this works for my brain. It just makes sense to me. So it depends on what makes sense to you. Again, this is for you to take away and use however you see fit. You make this tool to fit what works for you. But Form A is what I use to plug in student information. So right now, I want you guys to look through the different tools here, Form A, B, and C, and the protocol. I want you to spend a couple of minutes checking that over. If you have questions, if you have comments, please plug them into the chat because if one person has it, I'm sure that many of you do as well. So please feel free to use this couple of minutes and then we're going to get into Nicole and I doing a quick role play. Thank you, Ange. Love that. Ange is also a great sounding board as well. She gives a lot of excellent classroom teacher perspective, taught me a lot. Nicole, during our role play, you're going to click the role play tab and I'll just start plugging information in.
Sounds good. Amber, Caitlin said something really interesting, how teachers get stuck on the intervention part and they're experimenting with AI to help
Love it.
work.
That's awesome. And Caitlin, where are you coming from? Mexico. Okay. I like that idea of a flow chart. I think that's a great tool to put in place there. I would be very interested, Caitlin, how if you see anything in this that you can add to your toolbox, but also a flow chart would be a really excellent tool to be able to connect to. Okay, let's get into the role play, you guys, so that you can see this live. And as you can see, Nicole is sharing the tool, and I am going to be inputting information while she is sharing. So, without further ado, Nicole, who are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a student named Henry.
Henry. All right. Tell me about Henry. What's going on with Henry?
Well, for context for our audience, I just want to say he's in first grade.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about the strengths first. His math brain is really impressive. His math ability is at or beyond fifth grade level.
Wow. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
his working memory is also a strength. When he's playing, of course, in math, I really see that a lot when he's playing games with his peers, especially one where everyone needs to do their own calculation. And from that, they figure out who has the big number, who gets to take the cards. And he figures it out in 2 seconds, and everyone else is still working on it. And it ends up, it makes for a funny dynamic because he knows already. So his working memory is a real strength for him. I also think that his communication, like his expressiveness, is a strength. He's really open and loves sharing his thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
And I'm gonna stop there because I can go on and on.
All right. So, what do you see? Now, you guys, I'm going to look here in my protocol, and my step 2 is it says what specific barriers or challenges are present with Henry?
Right now, what I'm seeing is his anxiety, and the way that manifests is when there's an activity with like an unpredictable outcome. Maybe he might lose, or he has to guess a number, and he doesn't know what that number is going to be. Like it's going to have a reveal. I see that anxiety coming up. He
Okay.
asks he'll ask a lot of questions. What's it going to be?
Mm.
What's going to happen? But what if I lose? And of course, then that also plays into his friendships and collaborative work. Oftentimes he won't want to play games with his friends because of the possibility of him losing.
And Nicole, when he does lose, how does it go? Is he able to move on, or does he tend to get stuck?
He'll get stuck. I think it depends on more recently. I'll just talk about this recent game we were playing. It was a math chord game, and it was kind of like the kids were adding up their number. Whoever had the biggest number got to take all the cards. And so there were many rounds of that, right? Like we did at least 10 to 20 rounds. In every
Wow.
round, there was like crying noises, not always the tears, but then like as soon as, and I was sitting with him and I'd say, we're going to be okay. We're always going to have a round where we might not win. And then like when we moved on to picking up the new cards, he'd get over it. But then if we lost again, the same thing would happen. So it
Okay.
was kind of like if we had another chance, if there was something to move on to, I think that distracted him. But as soon as he was reminded of that loss, possibility of loss, that's what would fall. He would become dysregulated again.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, Nicole, if you're thinking about skills, all right. So, team, I am on step 3, which is thinking about skills. What are his present levels are right now? Um, what would you say are those focus?
The skill focus,
Yeah.
um, perhaps perseverance
Mm.
or risk taking. I haven't quite narrowed it down, but that's what comes to mind because um, I think perseverance, it's like persevering through that uncomfortableness of I didn't win. Um, and then also risk taking when he hasn't started a game yet. And you have to like take that risk of I'm gonna start this game even though I might lose.
Right. And Nicole, just real quick, is he receiving any external services?
OT
And how many days per week?
once a week.
Okay, great. And Nicole, when it comes to perseverance, like in those situations where you're seeing more of that anxiety, because I think that would be the time to really be focusing on like what is the present levels of those game like situations. How often is this happening? Is this like a daily? Is it 2 times a day? Is it only in the game like situations where there's a chance he may lose?
I'd say whenever these kinds of activities happen, this will happen, which
Okay.
is every day or every other day. It just depends how often those games or activities take place. But it's definitely multiple times a week.
Oh, so this is something that could easily have a tier one intervention to reduce the frequency of this happening.
Yes. And can I add, I just had another thought for the skill focus. Perhaps another one that we could consider is positive self-talk.
Positive self-talk. Yep. Self-talk. All right. All completely doable within the realm of what it is that we could look at. So when he's in these situations, I'm assuming that he's having this either outwardly or inwardly negative self talk. So, does he have any current little phrases that he uses to help him through, like to self regulate?
Currently, he doesn't. I think last year he did. Um, we're not seeing that roll over into this year. And we only just started, like this week, we did a size of the problem lesson,
Gotcha. Okay.
which we're hoping to build
Yep.
on. And I'm hoping that today we can come up with like a plan to build on that.
Okay. I'm going to plug that down here into our skill focus, which isn't really like size of the problem, isn't really a skill focus, but it is something that within the realm of thinking about recognizing,
Mm-hmm.
determining the size of a problem. All right. Okay. So, real quick, and just for time's sake, I want us to just come up with a quick goal of we're looking at risk taking, positive self talk, recognizing and determining the size of a problem. Currently, he's not using self talk. So, what would you like him to be able to do within the next 5 weeks? So, let's say by the beginning of November, what would you like him to be able to do looking at these skills?
I think I'd definitely like him to be able to use positive self talk. Perhaps by November, he might need a prompt to do that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say doing it independently yet.
Okay.
If we could get there,
That's
that would be
great.
great. I think I'm still getting to know him, so I'm not quite sure how long it will take for him to get to that independent piece.
Right. And do you want to also include the determining the size of a problem? So he's going to
Mm.
use this self talk with prompting. How many do we want to integrate more? How often?
How many
You want him to
prompts?
like how many like so if he has this one time per day, that's 5 times in a week that he would be able to we could actually track this with data. So
Yes.
do we want to say that he would need to do this 100% every single day? Or are we looking at 4 out of 5 days he's able to do this?
I'd say 4 out of 5. I think as humans,
Oh,
we're not going to be perfect 5 out of 5.
true. You'll be able to use prompting 4 out of 5 days. And is there anything that we can also insert here to make it a little bit more cohesive looking at these other skills?
Hmm. Let me look back at the other skills we wrote again. I think if we're going to include size of the problem, if his reactions can correlate, like match the size of the problem, I think
Right,
that'd be a great goal for him. That would be a success for him. If it's a small problem, we have a small reaction. If it's a big problem, we have a big reaction.
right. That's awesome. Well, use. So, and I think you'd probably need a visual of size of the problem. Henry will use size of the problem visual to determine to respond appropriately. Appropriately to an to a challenge. Out of 5 days. All right, so I kind of made this into two, but I think our participants get an idea of what it is that we're looking at here. And just so that we respect everybody's time, I'm curious if anybody has any questions for what they just saw there. Is there anything coming up that you think you could or that you have questions about or that you noticed? Do you think this is something that you would be able to use in your context? Ah, that's a great question, April. How do you ensure this is implemented by the classroom teacher rather than you as the LS teacher taking it over? Great question. So that kind of comes with in the protocol the next steps. So Nicole, go ahead and go to the protocol and step 5 is that reflect and schedule. So that is the follow-up, and that's where I provide the tools and the interventions for what it is that the classroom teacher can do. Actually, Nicole, go to modeling video and tool and scroll down to where it has the student goals. This is the video that I recorded that you all have access to. I put the goals in there, but you can see that I also put the interventions where I connected it with the evidence and the research, but then how are they going to implement it and when are they going? So April, I think, kind of like asked about that is like, how are you going to make sure the classroom teacher that comes in, how will you implement? And so this particular classroom teacher, she already has time during the day where she does all the interventions. So it's in the morning during the explore time. And so that's how we've been able to balance the classroom teacher, making sure that they're making time for it. Yes, Caitlin, you're absolutely correct. If they're super frustrated, it's going to make it even more challenging. So that's why it's always really good to just kind of come in. I just did one today with a classroom teacher, and I had to be like, actually, let's start today talking about this child. How does he show up? Who is this little boy? Because I'm not familiar with him, so tell me about him. Yes, yes, thank you, Ange. The teacher and the learning support work really closely. So that's another way to check in on this. Guys, Nicole, can you go back to the Canva? I really want to share the protocol and action slide. I want to make sure that everybody sees that slide because it shows, next one, says protocol and action. And this is where kind of like this system comes in. So keep going. Here it is. So step 1 is at the top, email. This is if a classroom teacher has a problem with the student. Then we have the tier 1 intervention meeting. Step 3, I go back. I come up with the intervention plan. Step 4, I deliver that to the classroom teacher. We debrief about it. After 4 to 6 weeks or whatever the intervention period is, I send in follow-up email and then to have a meeting. And then we go to step 6, which is where we have an actual conversation. Did the intervention work? If so, great, keep going. If not, let's make some changes. Or let's proceed with a referral. So that just depends on where we're at with the intervention. I think that this is really important to show you guys because you have to stay really organized with this because otherwise they kind of fall by the wayside and we want to make sure that we're constantly coming back. So I do a lot of Google Calendar invites. So at step 4, I'll send the teacher a meeting request for 5 weeks later so that it's in our calendars already. Michelle says coming from a coaching stance, allowing the teacher to decide what is needed and how to get there is a great way to partner. Doing the work with the teacher, not to the teacher. Thank you, Michelle. That is absolutely, that's exactly how we want to be more inclusive and following up. Thank you. Guys, we are out of time. Before we go, I just want to shout out to Equip My School. Please know that there are more webinars coming over the next couple of weeks through October. We would love to see you continue to show up. Caitlin, thank you for sharing this document. I love it. If you guys would like, I would be happy to send a follow-up email to see how I can continue to support you. If that's something you're interested in, please go ahead and just post your email address if you're comfortable. Otherwise, you see in the intervention tool, there's an entire tab that has my contact Amber information. I'd be happy to work through anything with this or with inclusion in general. Please know that I'm appreciate you. Glad that we could be here, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.